When Myra's beloved apartment building is sold overnight, she never imagines the new owner would be Damien Cross, the ruthless billionaire who destroyed her father's company 5 years ago. Now he's raised her rent to an impossible amount, and his offer is as dark as it is tempting: become his for 30 days, and the debt disappears. But Damien harbors secrets that could shatter everything Myra believes about her past. As dangerous enemies close in and twisted truths surface, she realizes this game of power and seduction was never about rent at all. Someone wants them both dead, and trust might be the deadliest gamble of all. This is 15-minute binge watch. One story. One obsession. 15 minutes. Let's begin. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, crisp and white, bearing the kind of expensive letterhead that promised nothing good for people like Myra Chen. She turned it over in her hands, her coffee growing cold on the kitchen counter of the cramped studio apartment that had been her sanctuary for 3 years. The return address made her stomach drop. Cross Empire Holdings. Everyone in the city knew that name, knew the men behind it, though Myra knew him better than most, knew him in the way that nightmares know their victims. She tore open the envelope with trembling fingers, and the words on the page might as well have been a death sentence. Rent increase effective immediately. The number that followed was obscene, impossible, nearly 5 times what she currently paid. Her vision blurred as she read the notice again, searching for some mistake, some loophole, but the signature at the bottom was unmistakable. Damien Cross had purchased her building, and he was coming for her. 5 years had passed since Damien Cross had systematically dismantled her father's company, since he had stood in a courtroom and watched Robert Chen lose everything he had built over 30 years. Myra had been 22 then, fresh out of college with dreams that shattered alongside her father's empire. She had watched her father age a decade in a single year, watched her mother's hands shake as she sold her jewelry piece by piece, watched their family home get auctioned off to strangers. And through it all, Damien Cross had remained untouchable, a dark-haired devil in $1,000 suits who never once showed remorse. Now he owned the roof over her head, and Myra suspected it was no coincidence. The knock on her door came exactly 72 hours after the notice arrived, 3 sharp raps that sounded like a judge's gavel. She knew who it would be before she opened it, had felt his presence like a storm gathering on the horizon. Damien Cross stood in her doorway, somehow larger than life even in the narrow hallway, his charcoal suit perfectly tailored to his broad shoulders, his dark eyes as cold and fathomless as they had been in that courtroom years ago. "Miss Chen," he said, and his voice was silk wrapped around steel. "We need to discuss your situation." Myra wanted to slam the door in his face, wanted to scream at him about karma and justice and all the things she had rehearsed in her head during sleepless nights. Instead, she stepped aside and let him in, because she needed to understand why he was doing this, needed to know if he even remembered destroying her family or if they had been just another line item in his quarterly reports. He moved through her small apartment like a predator assessing territory, his gaze cataloging everything from her second-hand furniture to the photographs on her wall. When his eyes lingered on a picture of her father, something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. "You know I can't pay this," Myra said, her voice steadier than she felt. "You know exactly what you're doing." Damien turned to face her, and for a moment, she saw something in his expression that might have been pain, but it vanished so quickly she thought she had imagined it. "I know precisely what I'm doing, Myra. May I call you Myra?" She didn't answer, just wrapped her arms around herself like she could hold her breaking pieces together. "I'm a businessman," he continued, moving closer, and she hated how her body reacted to his proximity, hated the way her pulse quickened with something that definitely wasn't just fear. "And I have a business proposition for you. 30 days. Give me 30 days, and I'll forgive the entire debt. I'll let you stay in this apartment rent-free for the next 5 years." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Myra felt her cheeks burn, felt anger and something darker coil in her stomach. "You want me to be your mistress?" "I want you to be mine," he corrected, and there was nothing cold in his eyes now. They burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Completely mine, for 30 days. After that, you walk away free, and we never see each other again." "Why?" The question burst from her before she could stop it. "Why me? Why this? You destroyed my father, you took everything from us, and now you want this too. Something dangerous flashed across Damien's face, and he closed the distance between them in 2 strides, crowding her against the wall. He didn't touch her, but she could feel the heat of him, could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that made her dizzy. Your father, he said, his voice low and rough, was not the man you think he was. Before Mira could respond, before she could process those words, Damien stepped back and straightened his tie. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, I'll begin eviction proceedings. He pulled a card from his pocket and pressed it into her palm, his fingers lingering against hers for just a moment. Call me when you've made your choice. I think you'll find that you're more curious than you want to admit. He was gone before she could form a response, leaving behind only the ghost of his presence and a business card that felt like a loaded gun in her hand. Mira spent that night searching through old boxes in her storage unit, looking for something she couldn't name. Her father's papers from the trial, his business records, anything that might explain Damien's cryptic words. She found nothing but bankruptcy filings and legal documents she had read 1,000 times before, but as dawn broke, she realized she had made her decision. Not because she believed Damien, but because she needed to know the truth, needed to understand what had really happened 5 years ago. She called the number on the card at 8 in the morning, and Damien answered on the first ring, like he had been waiting. I accept, she said, but I have conditions. His laugh was dark and rich. I'm listening. You tell me everything. The truth about my father, about why you did what you did, about why you're doing this now. No more secrets, Damien. If I'm going to be yours for 30 days, then you owe me that much. The silence stretched so long she thought he might have hung up. Then, done. My driver will pick you up at 7 tonight. Pack enough for a week. And Mira? Don't try to run. You won't like what happens if you do. The line went dead, and Mira sat on her couch, staring at her phone, wondering if she had just made a deal with the devil or if the devil had been someone else all along. The car that arrived that evening was a sleek black Mercedes, and the driver, a stern-faced woman named Elena, said nothing as she loaded Myra's single suitcase into the trunk. They drove through the city as twilight fell, past the glittering downtown core and up into the hills where the truly wealthy lived behind gates and walls. Damien's estate was a modern marvel of glass and steel, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, and as Mira stepped out of the car, she felt like she was entering another world entirely. He was waiting for her in the foyer, still in a suit but with his tie loosened, looking somehow more dangerous in this casual state. Welcome, he said, and gestured for her to follow him deeper into the house. They ended up in a study lined with books, a fire crackling in the fireplace despite the mild evening. Damien poured them both whiskey, and when he handed her the glass, their fingers touched, and that same electric current ran through her. Your father, Damien began without preamble, was laundering money for the Volkov family. 5 years ago, they were the second-largest crime syndicate on the West Coast. Your father's company was their primary vehicle for making dirty money clean. Mira nearly dropped her glass. That's a lie. It's not. Damien's voice was gentle now, almost kind. And I can prove it. But before I do, you need to understand something. I didn't destroy your father's company for profit, Mira. I did it to save you. The world tilted on its axis. Mira sank into a leather chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. What are you talking about? Damien set down his glass and moved to a safe hidden behind a painting. When he returned, he had a thick folder, and he laid it in her lap. Inside were photographs, financial records, transcripts of wiretapped conversations. Her father's handwriting, his signature, his face in grainy surveillance photos meeting with men Mira recognized from news reports about organized crime. The FBI approached me, Damien continued, his voice carefully neutral. They needed someone with the resources and the reputation to take down your father's company quickly, before the Volkovs realized their operation was compromised. They offered me immunity for some of my own borderline dealings if I would help them. Myra's hands shook as she flipped through page after page of evidence. Why would you agree to this? Because, Damien said, and now he was kneeling in front of her, his dark eyes locked on hers. The Volkovs had discovered that your father was skimming from them. They were going to kill him, Mira. They were going to kill your entire family. The FBI's plan was to raid his company, seize all the assets, and put your father in witness protection. But your father refused. He thought he could talk his way out of it, thought he could negotiate. So you destroyed him first, Mira whispered. I made sure the Volkovs thought the FBI had gotten everything, that there was nothing left to hide or kill for. I made it public, made it loud, so they would believe your father had nothing they needed anymore. It worked. Your father lived. Your mother lived. You lived. Mira felt tears streaming down her face, felt the foundations of her entire worldview crumbling. He killed himself 2 years ago. You know that. My father put a gun to his head because he couldn't live with the shame of what you did to him. Damien's face went gray. I know. I'm sorry. I thought I was giving him a second chance. Then why this? Mira demanded, gesturing at the house, at the situation. Why bring me here? Why the rent, the ultimatum? Damien stood and walked to the window, his shoulders tense. Because the Volkovs are back, and they've realized your father kept records, insurance policies hidden somewhere. They think you might know where they are. 2 weeks ago, one of their associates was seen photographing your apartment building. I bought it, raised your rent, because I needed to get you out of there without alarming them. I needed you somewhere I could protect you. The words hit Mira like physical blows. You're lying. This is some twisted game. I wish it were. Damien turned back to her, and she saw real fear in his eyes for the first time. Show her, Elena. The driver appeared in the doorway, and now Mira noticed the gun holster visible beneath her jacket. Elena held out a tablet, and Mira watched security footage of her apartment building, watched a man in a dark coat pick her lock, search her apartment, and leave. The timestamp was from 3 days ago, while she had been at work. Mira thought she might be sick. Why should I believe any of this? Why should I trust you? Because, Damien said softly, moving closer, 5 years ago, I went to your college graduation. I sat in the back, and I watched you accept your degree, and I saw your father in the audience crying because he was so proud of you. And I knew that what I was about to do would break all of you, but I did it anyway because the alternative was watching the Volkovs put bullets in your heads. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and wiped the tears from her cheeks with his thumb. I've carried that guilt every day since. I've watched over you from a distance, made sure you were safe, made sure you were surviving. And when I learned the Volkovs were sniffing around again, I knew I had to act. The proposition, the 30 days, it was the only way I could think of to get you here without raising suspicions. If anyone's watching, they'll think you're just another woman I'm using and discarding. Myra's mind reeled. Nothing made sense, and yet everything was clicking into place with horrible clarity. You've been watching me for 5 years? Yes. No shame, no hesitation in his voice. That's insane. That's obsessive and creepy, Anne. I know. Damien's hand cupped her face now, his touch surprisingly gentle. I know what I am, Mira. I'm not asking you to forgive me or even to like me. I'm asking you to let me keep you alive. She should have pulled away. She should have run screaming from this house and this man and this impossible situation. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch, found her hands gripping his shirt, found herself asking, what about the 30 days? What did you really want from me? Damien's expression shifted, became something raw and vulnerable. Everything. I wanted everything, Mira. I've spent 5 years watching you from afar, 5 years knowing I destroyed any chance I might have had with you, and I thought maybe, if I could just have you for a little while, I could finally let you go. That's the most messed up thing I've ever heard, Mira said, but she didn't let go of him. I know, he whispered, and then his lips were on hers, and Mira was kissing him back, was pouring 5 years of anger and grief and confusion into the kiss, and he was matching her intensity with his own desperate hunger. They broke apart gasping, and Mira said, I need time. I need to process all of this. We don't have time, Damien said grimly. Elena just signaled me. We have company. As if summoned by his words, the sound of breaking glass echoed through the house, followed by the sharp crack of gunfire. Elena appeared again, her weapon drawn. East wing breach. 3 hostiles, maybe more. Damien grabbed Myra's hand and pulled her toward a hidden panel in the wall. There's a safe room. Get inside. Elena will. I'm not leaving you, Myra said, surprising herself. Something fierce and possessive flashed in Damien's eyes. Later, he promised, we'll discuss how much I love hearing you say that. Right now, run. The next hours were a blur of fear and adrenaline. Myra huddled in the safe room while gunfire and shouting echoed through the house. At some point, sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. When the door finally opened, it was Damien, blood on his shirt but alive, his expression grim. They're gone, he said. The police have 3 in custody. But Myra, there's something you need to know. One of them talked. They said they weren't here for any records. Then what did they want? Damien's jaw clenched. Revenge. Apparently, the Volkovs don't care about the records anymore. They just want everyone associated with your father dead. Starting with you. They've been planning this for months. Myra felt the floor drop out from under her. So I'll never be safe. They'll keep coming. Not if we take them down first. Damien pulled her close, and she let herself take comfort in his strength. I've been working with the FBI again. Tonight's attack gave us enough to move forward. Within 48 hours, the Volkov operation will be finished. But until then, you stay with me. What about after? Myra asked quietly. After 48 hours, after the Volkovs are gone, what happens to us? Damien pulled back to look at her, his dark eyes searching her face. That depends. Can you forgive me for what I did? Can you understand why I did it? Myra thought about her father, about the secrets he had kept, about the lies she had believed. She thought about Damien sitting in the back of her graduation, carrying guilt for 5 years, watching over her like some twisted guardian angel. She thought about the way her heart had raced when he kissed her, the way her body had responded to his touch despite everything. I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe. Eventually. But Damien, you can't just manipulate people's lives because you think you know what's best for them. You can't play God. I know, he said softly. I'm done doing that. After this is over, the choice is yours. Walk away, and I'll never contact you again. Or stay, and we figure out what this thing between us really is, without the lies and the manipulation. Clean slate. Clean slate, Myra repeated. Is that even possible for people like us? Only one way to find out. The next 48 hours proved Damien right. The FBI raid on the Volkov operation made national news, with dozens arrested and the syndicate effectively dismantled. Myra watched it all from Damien's estate, processing everything she had learned, everything that had changed. Elena, she discovered, was former Secret Service, and the security around Damien's home was military grade. He really had been protecting her. On the 3rd morning, Myra woke to find Damien in the kitchen making coffee, looking domestic and almost vulnerable in jeans and a t-shirt. It's over, he said. The Volkovs are done. You're safe. Just like that. Just like that. He poured her a cup, added cream and sugar without asking because somehow he knew how she took it. I meant what I said, Myra. You can leave today. I've had Elena prepare your apartment, upgraded all the security. Or there's a house I own in Vermont, completely off-grid, if you want to disappear for a while. Whatever you need. Myra took the coffee, her hands wrapping around the warm mug. What do you want, Damien? Really? He met her eyes, and she saw everything he was feeling laid bare. I want you to stay. I want the chance to know you, really know you, without all the darkness and secrets between us. I want to take you to dinner and learn what makes you laugh. I want to wake up next to you and not have it be because someone's trying to kill you. But I can't ask for that. I have no right. No, Mira agreed, you don't. She watched disappointment flicker across his face, watched him start to turn away, and she set down her coffee. But I'm staying anyway. Not for 30 days. Not for any deal or arrangement. I'm staying because somewhere in this insane mess, I started to understand you. And I think I might want to know you too. The real you. Damien turned back slowly, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. Mira. I'm not saying I forgive you, she interrupted. And I'm not saying this will work. But my father made his own choices, and you made yours, and all we can do is move forward. So let's move forward. Together. And see what happens. He crossed the distance between them and pulled her into his arms, and this time when he kissed her, it felt like a beginning instead of an ending. It felt like a promise. 3 months later, Mira stood in Damien's study, now their study, looking at the photographs on the wall. Her father's picture was there, alongside her mother's, and new ones of Mira and Damien together. The darkness hadn't vanished, might never completely vanish, but they were learning to live in the light together. Ready? Damien called from the doorway. They were having dinner with her mother tonight, the first time since everything had come out. It would be awkward and painful and necessary. Ready, Mira said, taking his hand. As they walked out together, Mira thought about fate and chance, about the thin line between love and obsession, about how sometimes the person who saves you is also the person who broke you, and maybe that was okay. Maybe that was even beautiful, in its own twisted way. The billionaire had been her landlord, her enemy, her unlikely savior. Now he was just Damien, flawed and trying, and that was enough. That was everything. Some loves save you. Others own you. If you crave dangerous billionaires and twisted romance, subscribe to 15-Minute Binge Watch. The next story starts soon. Don't miss it.